There's a new sheriff in town, or an old sheriff. Chris Jones' re-signing changes the priorities for this Mock Draft Monday. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom, friends and neighbors around the world. Today, we're brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. Right now, new users are getting $150 back just for winning a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Join us at FanDuel.com/LockedOn and get started. We have a great show for you today. Obviously, some weekend news about Chris Jones back in the fold. How does that affect the priorities? We're going to go through it and give you our latest Mock Draft Monday. We hope that you are ready for it because it's going to be another scenario. Lots to go over here. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell on YouTube because that's where we do the most work. You can see us that way as well. And especially for these Mock Draft Mondays, you want to be able to see the screen and understand what our choices are as we will walk you through them. Then you go over to the audio platforms and Spotify and Apple and everywhere else because we're free 5 days a week on every platform everywhere. You locos always are listening every day, and we appreciate you guys very much. If you want to be a local, make sure you just get signed up on multiple platforms so you don't miss a thing. Very much appreciate that. And then if you need just that little bit more, like when Chris Jones news broke, you can get it on our text line at 816-357-8781. That is the insider news. We have a lot for you. He's Chris Clark of Chiefs Corner, where he's breaking down the cap, the deals, the whole 9 yards. You can get it all over there. I'm Ryan Tracy, Rogue Analytics, Rogue APCs, where you can get the athletic matrix, which is coming together rather nicely. I think you guys are going to be excited about some of it. And yes, this year's a little bit less dense on combine data. It's going to be more pro day heavy. A lot of choices there, but we're going to have it all for you. And then all of my team building stuff, including some news around the league at NFL33.com. And then all the visuals that you need at RGR Football, where I cover the Chiefs with my team in a whole different way. A lot of film work there. Make sure you join us. We appreciate you. This brings us to today, the Chris Jones news, and we're going to have to debate about it, at least shortly. I think changes the priorities for what the top 100 picks need to be for the Kansas City Chiefs. And folks, those picks, along with the compensatory, have not been updated on most engines. So today we're going to take you through a mock draft, but it's going to be 3 rounds. We're going to concentrate on the impact players, the top 100s, and really go through what our machinations are on positional value versus availability in this scenario. So without further ado, I feel like while they do need defensive tackle help, having Chris Jones is obviously a giant boost. They have to have depth, but I don't know that they have to go and make that a top 100. Like if all the tackles and wide receivers are gone, do they have to make a first-round selection at defensive tackle? I probably would shy away from that at this point.
And I don't disagree that I would necessarily want to shy away from it, but I would say this. If you have the ability to take a defensive tackle that you didn't think was going to be there at your first pick, I don't think that I would shy away from it completely. I mean, the problem is, Chris Jones is under contract. They don't have somebody really next to him. If they bring back Derek Nottie, he can be the run stuffer. He can help there, but you don't have a pass DT besides Chris Jones, and you're always wanting to get younger at that position. You're always wanting to add depth, and we don't have a ton. So the Chiefs don't have a ton. So I would say that if it's somebody you didn't expect to be there, take him at 32, especially if you're not getting any good trade back offers. And when we're running this simulation, we're not going to be taking trades at this point. But the other thing that we need to update is the Chiefs did get a compensatory pick. So do you want to list off the Chiefs selections that they have right now?
Yeah, and the engines around the world are not updated yet, but this is the Chiefs' current list. It's 32, 64, 95, as we've been steady on. Then 131 in the 4th. The 5th round, and most engines is listing at 158. It's actually 157 for the Kansas City Chiefs. Then another 5th rounder at 172. And then they do have a 7th round pick at 252. And a lot of engines aren't listing that as well. So that's why we're going to concentrate on the top 100 picks as we get rolling here. Let's see where we're at and what we get to.
Well, and the other thing that we need to talk about at the end of the show is a little bit of a preview for free agency, because that is going to be dropping right after we get this show up and running. It is going to start on Monday at 11 a.m. Central or Arrowhead time. So be ready for that as well. Going to be very busy over the next couple of days with free agency and everything else that's going on.
And that will change scenarios as well. So next week's Mock Draft Monday, because we record this a little ahead of time over the weekend, will be different, and we'll take into account anything that's happened in free agency. So without further ado, let's get after it. You're going to drive this one. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We are not taking even offers, right? Are we going to even look at offers that we get?
I don't want to in this one. I just want to focus on the top three, and let's just wait until after free agency, and then we can actually start really diving into the draft, or at least the first part of free agency. We'll see if the Chiefs do anything. So let's go ahead and just kick it off.
And what we're watching for here, if you folks don't agree, we'd love to know in your comments down below here on YouTube what you feel are the top needs for this roster. I think we were pretty settled as we went through our show last week that wide receiver and offensive tackle, particularly left tackle, are the top needs here. So what does that leave us as we get to the way that this is fallen?
Well, if we're going to look at wide receivers and we're going to look at offensive tackles, and that leaves us Ladd McConkey, Troy Franklin, Jordan Morgan, which actually I think Tony Pauline put out something saying that the Chiefs would run to the podium saying if he was available. That's an interesting one. From what I remember, he has shorter arms, and I'm not so sure that would work for Kansas City in that position.
Agreed. He's a little atypical. I'd have to pull up his combine profile here because I do believe he got measured, but I'll double check that. But I agree. He's also coming off of a significant injury. So until we get a little bit more than just Tony's word for it, and I like to confirm multiple sources before I dive into changing the philosophy.
Absolutely.
Let's go with, yes, they would like him. I don't think they're ready to do it at 32 because of the injury history, and he wasn't really been able to prepare for this draft cycle much at all.
Yeah, no, and it didn't surprise me. All the big names at tackle are gone, though, and most of the bigger wide receivers are gone at this point. So at this point, you're left with McConkey and Franklin at wide receiver. I guess you could go Wilson or Purcell, but to me, I think you're probably going to be stuck at wide receiver as long as they don't do something to change that in free agency in the next couple of days. So that's the way I would be leaning right now.
And the BYU tackle, Sumatai, I believe he's a lower round, second round pick. I don't believe he'd be in the 30s for me. So I would argue against this particular list here. It's very clear to me what to do in the first round here, and that is Ladd McConkey, I think, plugs in immediately, allows Rashee Rice to go out and play more at the X on the outside. He'll break ankles. I love his game here, and he tested fast. He tested quick. He's steady, and he's been a fixture in the Georgia offense for quite a long time. That's a no-brainer for me.
Well, let's take him, and when we get back, we're going to be talking about the Chiefs' second-round pick.
Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. And we're back. Make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today feed. You're going to have information 24/7. You're probably going to see us on there with the Chris Jones news. Hope that you guys enjoy that. I check it out whenever I have downtime because it's available 24/7 all the time. It's going to be a great one. Make sure you check that out. Now, I just want to go back for 1 second because I did double check on Jordan Morgan. He was measured. He actually did a couple. He did run his 40. I forgot about that and did the jumps here. Did not do lateral agility at the combine, but Morgan did measure in under the Chiefs threshold. Came in at 32 7/8 on his arm length. Normally, the Chiefs have a hard stop at 33 inches. I especially believe that with the injury history, I probably don't think that that they would have gone there in 32. So I think we're squared away and good to look at our second pick.
That 1/8 inch arm selection is very interesting, but I don't disagree with you. So the interesting thing looking at this, running this mock, looks like Xavier Worthy went 2 picks before. And I understand we're not doing trades. If Kansas City goes Ladd McConkey at 1 and Worthy is still sitting there in the 60s, if I'm Brett Veach, I'm trading up and I'm taking a chance at that second rounder. I would throw a 5th round pick or whatever it would take to go up and get him, just because you add those 2 guys, you add speed and you add somebody that can help in the middle of the field. And I think that would be fantastic. But where would you go?
I agree with you, and especially given Xavier had some comments over the weekend about, hey, I know what the Chiefs did with Tyreek. I could be that guy. Now, he needs to go prove it, because I do not think that he has the start-stop ability, particularly the deceleration that Tyreek Hill has, and the lateral agility. So good for you, Xavier. If you want to play for a world champ, I understand why you might put that out there. But I agree with you. I would make that bump up if he's still available. I don't think there's any way that he's still there at 62 myself. I think he's at worst mid-50s selection. So we'll go from there. but
I do expect that he's going to be working out with Mahomes in the Dallas area this offseason. So be watching for that, because I'm pretty sure he'll be there.
Could make sense. The other thing we'd have to emphasize, though, is if you were to do that, and in that scenario, you'd have Ladd McConkey and Xavier Worthy. You have to go free agency in terms of your left tackle position at that point. Yep. That likely means a Donovan Smith return, because there's depth tackles here, but at this point, we're really thin. I don't even know who's available at tackle right here.
So let's take a look at offensive tackle.
Okay. So these rankings have changed, and Patrick Paul has actually fallen down and is available here. I would rank him above Blake Fisher as the best tackle available right now. He has the athleticism, kind of an Eric Fisher-esque type player, where his lower body is definitely there. He's got the feet and can do the movement. Little underpowered up top, has a tendency to reach a little bit. That's okay. I think that they can train him up. It would be a very similar pick, but more athletically based than what we saw with the Wanya Morris pick.
So is that the direction you want to go?
He's the best here available. I really like Dominic Pooney and Rock Chalk, but Dominic's a little bit more of a really good 5-position offensive lineman. I wouldn't say that he's an elite tackle prospect or here best on the board. So, yeah, that's exactly where I would go. I'm tempted because Jalen Polk's available, and he's one of my guys, but we got it done with Ladd McConkey in the first.
Fair enough. So let's go ahead and go there, and we will see who is available in the 3rd round. All right, so now you've already addressed wide receiver. You've already addressed left tackle. Your 2 biggest needs, in my opinion, and probably yours as well, I would imagine, are already taken care of at this point with those 2 picks. Not saying you can't add more at the wide receiver position, but I think that it eliminates it from the top 3 needs. And what looks interesting to you here? What position do you want to look at?
You know, this particular group right off the bat is really, I think, hit or miss. I would not go running back in any way, shape, or form in the top 100. You guys know how I feel about that, and Isaiah Pacheco proves my point. Pooney is still available here, so a backup for Joe Thuney for eventually what happens next year is coming after Creed and Trey Smith at the same time. I expect them both back right now, especially with another jump in the cap structure, but you never know. So that's got to be there too. Michael Hall's an interesting prospect, and I think he plays with great leverage, but he is a little bit undersized. I would equate him more to a little bit more explosive Mike Dana in that I think he's only weighs in at like 280 pounds. So he's not like the next Christian Wilkins to play next to Chris Jones. You know what I mean? So that would be an option. But
so real quick on Pooney, do you think he can play more than just tackle?
Yes, I think he can play guard. I think he can play everything. Heck, he snapped at the Senior Bowl, and I thought he was perfectly competent at it. So if you decided, if Joe Thuney retires after next season, they get the 3-peat, and Joe's like, see ya, I'm off into the sunset, you could potentially either have Pooney slide in, or you could move Creed to guard and let Pooney snap. Like, there's a number of combinations there. He is a Swiss Army knife, in my opinion.
So 5-position player, which the Chiefs covet versatility. That's the reason I'm asking the question. So what else do you want to look at?
Eichenberg is an interesting linebacker. He's a leader. I think they're good there. I'm looking at the gap that is left by Willie Gay's likely departure here. I would look at Liafu from Notre Dame. He was up at the top there, but I think that's too high a grade on him. I don't have him up at this point. 95 is a little rich for me. I could live with it, but I would look at the defensive edge and we need to get more pass rush. So I'm looking at edge and interior right now to see what the options are. Hall was there at the top of that list. I like that you put in tight end there. Cade Stover isn't a prospect that I would put in the top 100 myself. Leonard Taylor's, I think, a little bit of a risk. I like Muhammad Kamara coming off the edge as another rotational edge rusher, but I think you can get him on day 3.
Well, and I'm just going to do it just to see who's there.
In case.
Yeah. Well,
Abrams
it's not necessarily, it's not even about Snead, really. To me, it's about value. And if a corner is dropped that you think that you can get something out of and turn him into a 4 or 5 year player that's going to start for you down the road, it's still worth it looking at who's available. So, and that's kind of the way I'm looking at positional versatility and depth at premium positions.
Yeah, I actually think Abrams Drain would go above this, Chris, the Mizzou corner. Like value here at 95, I think that's about right. So you could go that direction. You could try to get after the quarterback with Hall, or you could go Pooney. Those are the 3 options that I would go. I would say that overall, the best prospect on that board is probably Hall that gives them immediate impact.
Well, is that what the direction you would go?
Yeah, right here, that'd probably be the selection I make.
Okay, here we go. So that is your top 3 at this point.
And that's just one.
Patrick Paul and Michael Hall.
Yeah, and that's just one of several scenarios. We'll have another one for you next week. We need to talk about free agency. So coming up on the backside of this, what does the next wave and the next set of circumstances change about the priorities? It's coming up next on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's March. You guys have the time right now. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel is going to let you have every game of this tournament right now. Whether you're betting on an upset or a number 1 seed, it's time to go dancing with America's number 1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel. Right now, new customers are getting $200 in bonus bets for winning a $5 bet. So whatever you want to lay on the line, you win it, you get $200 in bonus bets. It can be point spreads, money lines, whatever you're looking for. You can even pick who's going to win it all right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets anyway. It is just getting going. Rock chalk a little bit for you. I think you should put some on that as well. But $200 in bonus bets at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Folks, make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today feed. It is everything you're looking for 24/7 all the time, whether you're just waking up or you're trying to go to bed. It's there for you. I think I like the scenario that we just completed on a 3-round mock draft. We'll come back to it. There's certainly options there, and you can see how, especially the 95 pick gets a lot of variability in areas that you could go to. Those will be affected by the free agency tour, and the Chris Jones signing has an effect on that. So, what changes? I think we both agreed that defensive tackle isn't a high need, but it's still a need. And I feel like free agency might be the way that they go here. Not maybe Christian Wilkins, although the cap doesn't really exist, right? So I'd love to see Christian Wilkins come and play next to Chris Jones.
No, wait a second here. You're saying the cap doesn't exist. I think that there are several teams, Denver Broncos, look at all the teams that had to just shred their teams just to get under the cap. It does exist. And I understand there's a ton of ways to make it work, and the Chiefs are really usually pretty good about that. I kind of disagree to an extent. I would say in my mind that DT or really basically pass rush is probably still in my top 5. If it comes from defensive tackle, I'm okay with that. If it comes from edge, I'm okay with that too. But I would say it's still probably a top 5 area of need because I don't think Minihue is going to be available. He may be able to play at the end of next season, but is he going to be anywhere close to 100%? That's the big question when it comes to an ACL. And without a Minihue, you're expecting big things from Karl Loftus and Jones, and I get that, but I still think that you need more help, regardless of whether or not it comes from DT or defensive end.
Okay, and that's fair. I'd always rather have pass rush than not, so it makes sense. The big question is now that Chris Jones is done, is the hanging balance with L'Jarius Sneed, and that's going to change the priority because I think if you do trade Sneed off, it'll play havoc because they'll easily get a top 100 pick that will change what we just did.
Okay, so along those lines, what's the minimum you would take? Because, and the reason I ask this, it sounds like everybody keeps saying a second round pick. I just saw somebody that covers the Colts on Twitter or on X just say they would give a third this year and a fourth next year that could become a third with playing time. I don't know that I would take that.
No,
Yeah.
not even close. I am demanding a top 45 pick no matter what. I will not discuss anything beyond that. And honestly, there are some people around the league that feel that a first-round pick isn't out of the question. Now, the only problem
and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, the only problem is I don't see that being a top 20 pick. And I'm not sure I want to give L'Jarius Sneed for any way, shape, or form in trade value to anybody that's in 20 to 32, because now you're helping somebody that you are projecting to have to play and run out of the playoffs in the coming three-peat run. So that's the conundrum for me. I would love to see them get, pick 38 just randomly. I don't even know who's holding that right now. But that's a decent value. And I think that's just the top. You will get a package of picks for L'Jarius Sneed, which will definitely secure multiple picks for us. Is it going to be the haul that Tyreek Hill was? No. Even Chris Jones wouldn't have been that haul. But it will be multiple picks. So I think you could get, say, number 38, and I think you could get 74, or you could get 38 and 82 or something like that. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. So get a low end one and maybe a fourth, or you could get a package of 2, 3, 4, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm expecting is a second and something else thrown in. I would love to see a first round pick, but the teams that I would want to trade him to, I would agree, are probably going to have higher picks than they're going to want to trade away for a corner. Although he is a fantastic corner, we'll see. So lots to talk about there. There's other things that are going to play into this, and this is kind of like what I talked about on the bonus episode with the structure of Chris Jones. And as of this recording, we still don't know what that structure is, how it's going to show up for 2024. But that is going to affect what you can do in free agency, which is getting ready to kick off. Probably it could be kicked off by the time you're watching this, or it could be getting ready to kick off. This should be coming out before free agency kicks off. So lots of different options there. It's going to be curious to see what direction Kansas City goes and how they go that way. And the biggest key and the biggest thing that they can use to their advantage is they still have the ability to restructure Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to have to do something to get Chris Jones' contract under the cap. So it's possible that Sneed could be gone in the next couple of days before Jones signs his deal, because it could be agreed to, just not signed, which at that point wouldn't count against the cap. And that's kind of the way some of these free agent deals could go as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all comes down to, if we don't start to hear noise about L'Jarius Sneed here in the next 3-4 days, but certainly by the end of the week, it's more and more likely that they have to double down and get a deal done with him long term. I don't think you want to play him at 19 mil on the season. And if they haven't been able to deal him, it tells you that there's not enough competition out there on the free agent market to warrant somebody coming in and trading high value for him, right? So that means that maybe the market's softer than he thought, and they can work on a multi-year deal. Again, if they do the thing that the Chiefs usually do, it's going to mean a low base salary in year one, allow them to get some bonus money and get on down the road where they have more room.
Well, and the big question when everything is said and done is, where are they going to end up? Because when you start talking about Sneed, the key with Sneed is you can't get yourself to where you're hamstrung and you are still trying to trade him after the draft. You have to get value if you're going to trade him. It has to be before the draft. And honestly, I think it needs to be in the next week if they're going to trade him. And I'm not saying I don't want LJ back in Kansas City. I would love to have Sneed back in Kansas City. I don't see it happening with the Chris Jones deal. It could, but they need to get the deal done if they're going to trade him in the next week, because obviously they could do it before the draft, but if they're not going to get it done in the next week, it's going to be really hard to do other things.
Yeah. It's all steam ahead right now. Chris Jones is the first domino to fall. He's not the last. We'll have more for you every single day this week. Matt, Derek will be back with us. Give us a look inside the building, what he's hearing as well. But it's all coming fast and furious. It is free agency frenzy. Be ready. We'll be back with you tomorrow and break down everything else that we've learned. Thanks for spending your time with us. We very much appreciate it. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell on YouTube, and get subbed over on the audio platforms. Have a great day.